Oh, very good morning, everyone. Welcome to the FCPI Research and Publication Forum webinar series on Publish on Perish. So today we have our esteemed speaker, Dr. Vrinda Nambudiri, who is a well-known fame in the area of clinical pharmacy and antimicrobial stewardship. And without much introduction, I'm just briefing her. She's a clinical pharmacist by profession and completed her PhD from Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham. And she has been working with antimicrobial stewardship program as well as antimicrobial stewardship research since 2016. And she had been in multiple collaborative projects across the nation as well as internationally with many universities in UK and South Africa, and she had been selected as the emerging leader in infectious disease by International Society for Infectious Disease, and she had been invited as an esteemed speaker in many international conferences, including the ID Week, CITSCon, and even ICID. So I would like to hand over to Vrinda. I would like to hear your experiences as well as the expertise in research and publication. Over to you, Vrinda, and thank you so much for joining with us.
Thank you so much, Rashid, for that very brief introduction. Let me just quickly share my screen. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, you are visible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session. So, today we are here to actually discuss about a very important topic. It's a phrase that is very commonly used, especially in academic profession. It is called publish or perish. So, we will discuss about what this uh, caption or what this phrase means, what are its impacts, and how is it that we can navigate through this uh, issue as an academician or as a researcher. Right. So before I move on with my presentation, I would like to state that I have no disclosures to declare. So in the next 30 or 40 minutes, we will be discussing about what this phrase of publish and perish mean. Why is publishing your work important? What are the different impacts of publishing timely in academia? What are the matrices used for measuring research outputs? And what all need to be considered when you're publishing your work? Right. So let's begin with understanding what this phrase means. So, as per Oxford Learner's Dictionary, publish or perish is a phrase used to express the idea that it is important for teachers in colleges and universities to publish books, etc., about their research, and that if they fail to do so, it will have a bad effect on their career. So, in very simple terms, it means that as academicians or as researchers, we have to prioritize timely publications. And if it is not done, then it will have a negative impact on our career. So, why is publishing your work so much important? I'm sure all of you who are listening to this presentation would also have heard multiple times as students and as clinical pharmacists that you need to publish your work. That is, I think, irrespective of which field you are, whether you're in clinical pharmacy, in research, in pure academics, this is a phrase that this is a saying that you always hear that you need to publish your work. So, understanding why that publication is important is very necessary. So, the very, very basic or the most important thing that you need to understand with respect to publication is that if you're doing a research work, it has to be disseminated to maximum number of people. So you might feel that as a researcher, when you're doing a research work, you might feel that it is not so much impactful. I've not found something new. I've not done something great. So why should I publish? So that's something that I always hear when I talk to budding clinical pharmacists, that they might be doing amazing work in their hospitals. They may be doing a lot of research work, but they feel that it is not worthy enough to be published. So what you need to understand there is, in your eyes, it might not be something that's worthy enough, but there might be some other person sitting probably somewhere else in India or somewhere else across the country, across the world, who might be stuck at a point and they are looking forward to getting the right guidance and direction. And probably your publication would answer a lot of questions that they have. So I would actually again and again emphasize that if you feel your research has some good outputs, please prioritize publishing those results, because the major impact of any publication is to disseminate it to maximum number of people. So that is the most important thing. Second benefit is that it definitely improves your recognition and visibility. So your research output gets a lot of audience, and a return gift or return of that visibility is also gaining more recognition as a researcher or as an academician. And when you have better visibility and recognition, it also leads to better networking and collaboration. It will also support your academic advancement, including promotions at work, better salary, and as well better job opportunities. So because of these things, publications are definitely very, very important. But I would like to just emphasize here that you should not get carried away by just doing publication for the sake of publication or for getting better job opportunities or better position in your institution. The ultimate aim of publication should always be that you want to disseminate your research to the maximum number of people. You want to build on what you have found, and you want to improve patient care. That should be your ultimate goal as a clinical pharmacist, as a healthcare professional, when you are publishing your work. Your ultimate goal should not be just improving your career, improving your personal benefits. That is also there, that also comes along with it. But always you should understand why publication is important with respect to patient care. Now, because you are publishing, you have a lot of benefits, like we discussed in the previous slide. In addition to that, your institution also gets a lot of credit. So one is that the more the publication, it improves the research competency of the institution. It improves their global ranking, attracts more funding from outside funders, and also it attracts more students and thereby better income from teaching. So because your publication has some benefits, has all these benefits to the institution, there is a tendency for a lot of institutions to put pressure on their faculty to publish more and more. So these are some of the reports that have come in various newspapers and journals, where they have pointed out to the high number of fake scientific papers in the scientific field or in the research arena. So this shows you how much of an issue this pressure of publishing is causing in our research field. So this is a very interesting paper that I came across while preparing the slides for this presentation. So this was a study that was conducted in Turkey, where they looked at the ill effects of publish-or-perish culture. So they conducted a bibliometric analysis of over 250 publications, and they found that majority of these papers are published in low-ranking journals. So you would have heard about the different types of journals or different rankings in journal. So something that we commonly use is the quartile system, where journals are divided into Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 journals. And any journal that comes in the Q1 category is considered as the most impactful or the best journals in that particular field. Q2 is also considered to be a good set of journals. So your intention should always be to try and prioritize in Q1 and Q2 journals. But these journals are extremely competitive, and they only publish those papers that are very well written, that really adds to the research pool. So in order to get published in those type of journals, your research and your findings and your manuscript should be very strong. So when you're not doing a good research work and you're not putting out a good finding, your paper will ultimately not get published in any of these very good journals. So you then tend to publish your work in certain lower ranking journals, which may not have a good reach. And this could also include certain predatory journals as well. This study also found that over the years, the number of publication has increased in this population, but the citations has reduced. So what do you mean by citations? So it is basically when someone else is citing or referencing your work in their study. So for example, when you are writing a paper, you would reference certain other papers. So you would say, we found this, but in comparison, another study has found something else. So reading another paper and finding that interesting and similar or dissimilar to your study actually leads to citing their work in your manuscript. So the more your or the better your paper is, it has a tendency also to gain more citations. So this study found that over the years, the publication has increased, but the citations have reduced, which means that the quality of publication is ultimately being reduced because of this publish and perish culture. Another thing that this paper found was that this publish or perish has resulted in more co-authored papers. So many a times, especially senior faculty in academic institutions, they because they are not able to bring in unique or novel research, what they do is they add their name as co-authors on other publications done by another research team. So new or novel or innovative research that they initiate might be less, but their name would appear as co-authors in some other publications. So that is again showing that unique or novel research is decreasing when there is publish or perish culture. Now, what are the negative impacts of this issue or this culture of publish or perish? So, because we talked about how your institutions impact from your publications. So, because of those benefits, many universities have a tendency to put pressure on their scholars to publish timely. Now, when there is a pressure to prioritize publications, it leads to less time for the faculty to dedicate to teaching undergraduates and postgraduates. Some of the universities hire their faculty based on their publication record and not on their teaching or research experience and capability. And this pressure to publish can also lead to unethical practices and low quality publications. Now, the fourth point that I've mentioned here is one of the major issue with regards to this publish or perish culture, because when your institution puts a pressure on you to publish, no matter what you're doing, to just go on publishing, you will end up cooking up data. You will end up fabricating or falsifying data or duplicating your work into multiple publications, which is considered extremely unethical in research arena. So this is a report that I came across which looked at the number of retractions in journal over the years. So basically it means that the journal has removed certain papers from their database. So in this graph, you can see over the years, this number of retractions from journals have increased and quite substantially also. Now, what are some of the major reasons by which these papers are getting retracted from journals? The main or the most important reason is falsifying or reporting unethical research. So the data that is being presented in these studies are not trustworthy, or they are falsified or fabricated. That is one major reason why a lot of papers were getting removed from the journal basis. Other reason is duplication of the article by the author. So many, at least some authors have the tendency to publish the same research, same results in different journals, just rewording or reformatting the findings, but it is essentially giving the same results and the same methods and everything is same, just probably the wording is a bit different and it is in different journals. So the author would get 2 publications out of it, but if you look at the whole picture of how that is adding to the research pool, it is not really adding any much benefit. It is the data has already been published in another journal, and in the second journal it's just duplication of work. So some authors even have the tendency to do that. So another problem is plagiarism, where you are using certain material that has been produced by someone else and just directly copying and pasting it into your research paper, not even citing their work. So that is a very big issue. So these are some of the common reasons why papers are getting retracted or removed from journal databases. So what are some of the matrices that journals use to sort of evaluate their research outputs? The first one is impact factor. I think many of you would have heard this term a lot. So what does impact factor mean? It is basically the average number of citations received by articles in a journal within a certain time frame. So if you visit journal web pages, you would see impact factor for the year 2024 or impact factor for the last 5 years. So in that particular time frame, what is the average number of citations received for the papers in that journal? That is impact factor. The second is cite score. It is basically the ratio of citations to research published. So these are some of the common matrices that are used to evaluate or to measure the research outputs. But there is something known as the San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment, which has put forth certain recommendations on how else we need to evaluate research outputs. So they have these three recommendations. The first is that the journal-based matrices, like what we discussed now, impact factor, cite score, etc., should be eliminated. The next is there should be a need to assess research on its merits and not where it is published. And third is the need for capitalizing on opportunities provided by online journals. So sometimes what happens is that, especially for us researchers who are from resource limited settings, publishing in very good journals, that to open access publication. Open access publication is when your research becomes readily available for anyone viewing that research, like to read the full text of a paper readily as soon as it is published. So in order to have this open access publication, the journals would require you to pay a fee. We'll discuss about that in one of our later slides. So many a times when researchers are not able to pay that, they publish in another format wherein the paper would remain behind a bar for a certain period of time, say for like 1 year, and only the abstract would be available for the general viewers to see. But those who have already subscribed to the journal would be able to read the full paper. So in those aspects, what happens is that the reach of your paper would reduce. So even you as a researcher, if you're just reading the abstract, how much of the information are you getting from that? If you are interested and you want to read the full paper, you won't be able to access it. So the reach of your paper gets restricted there. And because of which, the citations will also reduce for your paper. So it is important to also look at some other matrices on how you can evaluate or how you can measure your outputs. Now, these are some alternative matrices that have been suggested. Again, these are not still widely used. Even now, we still go with journal matrices for measuring outputs, but these are some alternative matrices that we could use. The first is Almetric book marklet. So it is basically what I understood is it's a free plugin for browsers to basically see your social media shares. So how much of your, how many shares you're getting on your Instagram page or your LinkedIn or your Twitter. So that is used as a matrix, or that could be used as a matrix. So to see basically how much reach your paper is getting among the audience. Then there's another one called Figshare, which is a repository for research outputs in citable, shareable manner. So it's basically a database where you can add your research papers, and the participants would be able to view it readily and able to share that paper as well. Then there is Impact Story, which is again an online, it's a tool that can be used to measure the online impact of the journal. And there is another tool known as Insights, which enables analysis of institutional productivity and benchmarking research output against peers worldwide. So these are some examples of tools that could be used for measuring research outputs. Again, like I said, these are not very widely used, but it would be good to have some alternative measures to actually evaluate your research outputs. So I hope by now you have understood why publication is important, and what are some of the negative impacts of putting unnecessary pressure on yourself or your peers to publish their work, and what is some of the impact of publishing fabricated data. So next we will look into how to actually publish your work. What are some of the key things that you need to consider when you are deciding to publish? So again and again, I would like to emphasize the point that if you want to publish, please do not rush to publish it. Don't fabricate data, don't cook up data, don't publish for the sake of publishing, or don't publish just to increase your publication list and for your own personal gain. Your personal gains will come out of publications, that is a given, definitely. But you should have a good intention behind publishing your work. That is, your research or your publication should have some impact on patient care. See, any healthcare professional, any research that we do, the ultimate aim of those research should be to impact patient care. So have that concept very clear in your mind whenever you're doing research projects, and always think in those terms whenever you're writing papers also. So the first and the most important thing is understanding the ethics in publication. So as researchers, you need to avoid these few things. First is data fabrication and falsification. So you would have a data set and that's not giving the findings or the output that you desired. And because that's not giving the output that you wanted, you might have a tendency to falsify or modify or change the data in a manner that it is showing good impact. So for example, because I have more experience in stewardship, I might give more examples on those terms. So suppose you are implementing an antimicrobial stewardship in your hospital, and say after 1 year, you're evaluating the impact of the program on patient care. You're using different matrices, say consumption of antimicrobials or patient's mortality, hospital stay. So there are a lot of outcomes that you can use to evaluate a stewardship program. And when you're doing those evaluations, you find that your stewardship interventions did not have a significant impact on these parameters, but you want to show that your intervention has done something good. So you might have a tendency to just manipulate the results in such a manner that a significant outcome, significant result is obtained. But that's a very, very wrong practice to do, because you are not actually showing the right practice. You're not showing the actual thing that happened there. Your intervention might not have worked because of some other reason. So what you need to do as a researcher is to go back and see what went wrong. So it could be some challenges that you have faced in between. It could be the way you have designed your intervention. It could be how you have communicated your interventions to the doctors. It could be how you have collaborated with other healthcare professionals. So why you're not getting the desired impact of a study could be due to multiple reasons. So just because you're not getting the desired output, you should not go back and falsify and manipulate the data. Rather, you should go back and see, do like a root cause analysis, do an in-depth evaluation of what could have gone wrong, or what should you do alternatively to improve your results, and then try implementing those changes and see if that is causing any change in the results. So that is how you as a researcher should do, rather than going and manipulating the data. The next is plagiarism, which we have already discussed. The other is multiple submissions. So some researchers have the tendency to do this, wherein the same set of data they just publish in different journals in different formats. So again, that's not adding any additional value to patient care or to the research pool. The next is redundant publications, or something known as salami publications, where suppose you have a huge project, you are dividing the publications into smaller bits, which are technically not worthy of publishing. So if you look at many large projects, they would have come out with multiple research publications. That is fine, as long as each paper is talking about a different aspect of the study, or it is showing different results. That is all right. But if the project has been divided into multiple bits and pieces, and each of this bit is not technically worthy of publishing, and you're still going ahead with publication, that's not, again, not adding to patient care or the research pool. The other one is improper author contribution or attribution. About the author contribution and how to add co-authors, we will discuss later in detail. Okay, now let's look at how to approach a publication, or how to publish your work in a stepwise manner. So these points I've basically written from how I do a journal publication. So what I do first is I put together, so once the study is done, once I've analyzed the results, I put together a rough draft of the manuscript. So in the format of, say, introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusion, I just put together a rough draft, just putting out points and key findings, what methods, everything I've written, but it's still a rough draft. Then most of the times while writing the manuscript itself, you also need to identify where you want to publish it. So identify some target journals. So if it is, if your work is in infectious diseases, identify which journal in infectious diseases you want to publish your work. If it's in critical care, where do you want to publish your work? Do you want to publish your work in an Indian journal? Do you want to publish it in an international journal? So it all depends on what target audience are you aiming to. So is it, if you are targeting only, say, pharmacy students or pharmacy faculty, you could consider publishing it in a pharmacy journal. But if you want the paper to reach the medical fraternity also, you want the paper to be read by doctors and researchers outside pharmacy field, you might have to go in for a medical journal. If you want your paper to reach a wider audience, you might have to consider publishing in an international journal. So depending on how much reach you want, and how much how like, again, that depends on the article processing charge. There are a lot of factors that come in. So depending on all that, put together a list of journals where you would like your paper to be published. And another thing that you need to be mindful here is to avoid predatory journals. We'll talk about that in the next slide. And then once you so you have a rough manuscript, you have identified your target journal. Then what you need to do is go to the journal's web page. So every journal will have a web page. Go to that journal's web page, and there would be a tab that says about the journal, or aims and scope, something like that. And that will give an idea about what is the kind of papers that the journal accepts, or what is it that they are looking forward to publishing. So read through that and see if your manuscript is fitting that description. If not, then there is no point actually in submitting your paper there, because especially journals that are in the Q1 and Q2 category, they have immediate rejection. So many a times when you submit your publication, and if it does not meet their criteria, they would reject your paper even within like 2 or 3 days. It might not even go for a peer review process. So now you have read the journal's details, and you have ensured that your manuscript is fitting that journal's description. Then you go on to read the journal's guide for authors. So every journal, again, they will have author guidelines, where they will discuss about the kind of publications that they do, how should one structure the publication for their journal. So that again depends on the type of articles. So if it is a review article, the format might change. If it is an original research paper, the format will change. Case report will have a different format. So I understand what is the format that the journal requires. Again, citing references, each journal will have a different style of citation. Some will have Vancouver style, some will have AMA citation style. So read and understand everything in that guidelines. Literally read it line by line and understand it very well. Again, how to put together a table, what is the word count, how many tables are permitted, how many figures are permitted. Everything would be given in detail in this author guidelines. So it is your responsibility as a researcher to read through it line by line very carefully and then go in for publication. So now once you have understood the guidelines, then you have to modify your manuscript. So you have a rough draft of the manuscript. Now you just modify it based on the journal guidelines. Ensure that you are complying to all their criterias. The next important thing is authorship. You need to provide authorship to all those who have significantly contributed to the work. And before you submit, it is very important that you share your publication with all your co-authors for review. Unless and until you get an approval from all co-authors for publication, please do not go ahead and publish. Because when a person's name is on the paper, he or she is equally responsible for the manuscript and what is discussed in the paper. So it is important that whoever is the, say, the first author or the corresponding author of the paper, they need to ensure that all the authors have read and they have approved the manuscript before publication. So these are the different types of publications. So you have original research paper, review paper, short communication, case studies, opinion pieces. So when you are planning for a publication, you need to decide on how is it that you want your paper to be. So do you want to publish as an original research paper? Do you want it to be a letter to editor? Do you want to write a conference report? So each of these publication type will also have a different format. So this is how the aims and scope of journals are given. So this is just an example of International Journal of Infectious Diseases. So they have elaborated on what kind of journal it is. It is a peer-reviewed open access journal. What are the type of studies that they publish? So everything in detail is given in this. So you have to read this first, then see if your manuscript or your study is complying to that. Then when you're identifying the target journal, like I mentioned, you have to identify who your target audience is, your publication type, and article processing charges. So article processing charges is basically a payment that needs to be made to publish your article in open access reputable journals. So especially journals that come in the Q1 and Q2 category, if you want to have an open access publication, wherein as soon as you publish your paper, it is readily available. The full text is readily available to anyone who wants to read it. So this can be very expensive. So some journals do offer some waivers for authors, especially those who are from resource limited settings. So some journals mandate that you need to put a request for these waivers before you submit your publication. So if you want such waivers, please go through the journal's website and see what they have written with respect to this article processing charge waivering. And if you don't find any details, please reach out to the journal and ask if such waivers are available. And when is it that you have to put in this request? Because sometimes once everything is accepted, the paper is accepted, and then you ask for a waiver, then the journal may not accept your request. So it is important that before you submit your publication, you go through all these things. And if possible, you ask the journal for waivers and then proceed. So what is a predatory journal? So predatory journals are basically those that don't have a peer review process. They don't have any quality control. And despite these issues, they still charge a huge publication fee. So this is just an example of how predatory journals send you invitations. So this screenshot here has shown you what are the things that can indicate towards a predatory journal. So here it shows the first thing is giving the wrong prefix. So even if you're not a doctor, they might address you as a doctor. Then there would be grammatical or formatting errors throughout the paper. Then, for example, inconsistencies in spellings. They might the main thing that they write is they might just flatter you right, left, and center. They might say, "We have read your amazing publication in this journal. We are so impressed with your work, and we would like to invite you to publish in our upcoming volume." This is the common way in which they approach you. And what happens is that many a times, especially researchers who have just started, they may have a tendency to fall for these flattery notes. So please don't fall for these kind of predatory journals, because publishing in these journals is not going to impact your research career, or it is not going to impact patient care in any manner. So identify these issues and carefully look at these emails. When in doubt, always ask your supervisors or mentors who have better experience in this field. Check with them if they think this is a predatory journal or this is a true journal. You can go up to their website and see. So there are ways in which you can avoid such journals, but please always have a lookout for these, and try not to fall for these flattery notes. Okay, other one that I really need to emphasize is about authorship. So, with regards to authorship, researchers follow this criteria called ICMJ criteria, which clearly state who an author should be. So, according to this criteria, an author should fulfill four requirements. First is the author should have contributed significantly to the work. So this could be in the conception of the study, design of the study, acquisition, analysis, interpretation of data. So basically, the person who you are naming as an author should have contributed either to structuring the study, or in the data collection part, or in the data analysis, or the interpretation of the findings. So any of the key steps of writing the paper, the author should have given substantial contribution. Second requirement is they should have contributed significantly to drafting the manuscript or reviewing it critically for important intellectual content. So either they should be involved in drafting the manuscript, or they have to have reviewed the paper critically and provided their comments and suggestions. Third is the final approval of the version should be taken from each of these authors. So the authors should have seen the final draft of the manuscript that is being submitted to the journal, and they should agree to the fact that they are also accountable for every aspect of the publication. And in case there are any questions that are raised in terms of accuracy or integrity of the study, they are also answerable to it. So any researcher or any collaborator who fulfills all these four criteria, only then they can be called as an author. So understanding this is very important, because in many research papers, this authorship becomes quite tricky. So you should give authorship only to a person who fulfills all these four criteria. So in the same journal that I was discussing previously, they have clearly stated who an author should be. And sometimes you might also need to change the authorship once the paper has been submitted. Ideally, it is important that you ensure the authorship is correct. There are no spelling errors, there are no affiliation errors, the order of the authors, everything is correct prior to submission. But just in case, after the first round of peer review, you find that there is some issues in the authors list and you want to make certain corrections, it has to go in a very stepwise manner. So the corresponding author should write to the journal editor requesting for this change. Every author on that list should approve that change. So every journal will have certain requirements for doing this. So you have to follow that in case you want to make any changes to the authorship. So now, suppose there is a researcher or a colleague of yours who did not technically contribute much to the study in the design or the conduct of this study, but he or she helped you with language editing or formatting of the article, or creating the figures, giving you suggestions for improving the outlook of the paper or some administrative support for doing the research. So they don't qualify or they don't fulfill the 4 criteria that we discussed, but they have contributed to the work or helped you in drafting the manuscript. In those cases, you can name them in a section known as acknowledgements in your manuscript. So if you look at many of these papers, they will have a section that's called acknowledgements right at the end of the paper, where they have stated the names of these people and how they have contributed to the work. So any of these people may not be able to, you can't actually name them as an author in the paper, but you can definitely thank and acknowledge their contributions by giving their name in the acknowledgement section. Now coming to challenges in publication. So I hope by now you have understood why publication is important, how you need to publish your work. But even if we understand it is important, there are certain challenges also for us. The first is lack of time. Because writing a paper, editing it, formatting it, submitting it to multiple journals, everything is quite time consuming. So many a times when you submit your paper to the first journal, it might get rejected. Then you'll have to again modify the paper as per another journal's format, resubmit it to somewhere else. That might get rejected. Again, you modify it. Third journal you submit. So sometimes it can also happen in that way. Sometimes the first journal itself might accept your work. So you can't technically predict how many months or what time duration it is going to take for your article to be published. So even if you submit it to some journal, all reputed journals will have a peer review process. So peer review process is when your paper is sent to an external reviewer, ideally 2 or more reviewers, to review your work and provide comments or suggestions. So this peer review process will also differ from journal to journal. Some journals will do this peer review process in just 1 month. Some might take up to 3 months. So again, that depends on how quickly they would get the reviewers and how quickly the reviewers are able to review your manuscript. So this time frame is quite a commitment for researchers. So that lack of time can be a challenge. Lack of resources, people to do the research, people to actually contribute to the study. So human resources, technical resources are also challenging at times. Lack of funding, especially when you have to pay a huge article processing charge. If you don't have sufficient institutional funding or research funding, that can be a challenge. Language barrier, because most of these reputed journals pay a lot of attention to the language formatting, the grammatical errors. You need to have a good language handle, language hold, or you can make use of certain websites, or some journals also provide some language support. So you can make avail of those services. And definitely you need to have good writing skills. So every person won't have a good writing skill, but you can always improve your skill. So if you feel that you don't have good writing skills, go in for some courses where they actually help you with writing research papers. There are a lot of research writing courses online, offline, that is being conducted by very good institutions as well. So you can go and attend those courses. And the more you write, try to improve your writing also. So say when you're sending your paper to your co-authors and they are providing some constructive freedom on your writing skills, make a note of those comments and try to modify your writing based on those comments, and ensure that you're not repeating the same mistakes the next time you're writing. So it is important that you constantly update or constantly work on your writing skills, especially if you feel that it is not good enough. Okay, so this is my last slide for this presentation. So I hope you have understood why publications is important, how you can write a publication, what are some of the key things that you need to be mindful about when you're publishing your work. And in the bigger picture, as clinical pharmacists, publications are extremely important for us, because clinical pharmacy, as we all know, is still evolving in India. We still have limitations with respect to opportunities that we get as clinical pharmacists in our country. So publishing your work definitely will help you to improve your visibility and recognition, but it will also help in improving the recognition and visibility of the clinical pharmacy profession in our country. So the more recognition that our profession gets, the more opportunities also it will open up. So probably your research in a good journal, if that is being read by someone else, some other hospital administrator in another hospital, they might feel, okay, good, clinical pharmacists are able to contribute to the patient care in such manner, and that's giving some good outputs. So they might be open to hiring few clinical pharmacists in their hospital as well. So you always have to look even at the bigger picture, because your publications is not just impacting your career, but it is also impacting your profession in the country. Definitely it will have good impact on you, even with regards to supporting your applications for higher studies and better job opportunities. It also will create better job opportunities for other clinical pharmacists also in the country. So I would like to conclude my presentation by again reiterating that, please, if you are doing some amazing work in your hospital, prioritize publishing it. There are options to get waivers in your publication charges. There are some free journals also, not predatory journals, but some journals who don't charge a publication fee. So look out for those journals. Before publication, it's good to even write an abstract and submit it to a conference and present it as a poster. So that also gives you some visibility among your peers. So I hope you all will prioritize publication and ensure that you publish ethically. Thank you so much for your patient listening.
Thank you, Vrunda, for such an amazing presentation. And I think you have covered almost everything with the concepts of publish and perish. You have started with the concept of publish and perish, where you said what is the individual benefit of it as well as the organizational benefit. Then you took an example of a bibliometric research or bibliometric analysis, which says how publish and perish is affecting a country's research paradigm. And then you said about the retractions and what are the different reasons of retracting a paper, which is very important nowadays because we could see that including the JAMA papers or including the
Yes.
NEJM
Yes.
papers, there are a lot of papers are getting retracted. It might be contributed significantly in the clinical practice in the earlier days, but
Yes.
when we really realized that that data was not good enough to be treated as a wonderful publication or good publication to be taken into the clinical practice or decision making. So when it get retracted, obviously many things like a protocol or treatment algorithm or many things might change because of the influence of that retracted paper. So it's very important and people should understand even we have a random or we have a kind of telling in our research field that even you have 100 papers and one of your paper get retracted, that will
Yes.
be treated as a very high
Affects your
black
credibility.
mark. Exactly. So we should be very careful when we
Yes.
play with this. Then you talk what is impact factor, citation, then upon that, the best thing is that you spoke on San Francisco grading. That's very important because majority of the time when especially these newcomers coming to the research field or publishing field, they always go with impact factor or
Yes.
always go with kind of fallacy pictures in the journal website. That is not true actually. So we like when you get experience, you will understand. Obviously, maybe first one or two publication might have gone into some dumb journals, obviously, because we didn't
Yes.
know
We are
about
also
that, but
learning.
nothing to worry. Yeah, nothing to worry about that. But maybe we can learn over the time. And I still remember there was a quote when I attended one of the conference or session in the earlier days. So he used to say that I don't remember the speaker, but he used to say that if your paper is very good, it doesn't mean that it will get published in a good journal, but obviously it will get cited by very good
Yes.
journals. So
Absolutely.
it depends on your if you really believe your paper, so it will get cited, not it just get published. So yeah,
Yes.
obviously we need to target Q1 and Q2 journals because we need to have that quality of publication. So you need to follow that obviously, but upon that, don't always go behind these fallacies. So that is the one point. Then you spoke on what are the different things which we need to consider while we publishing, then ethics in publishing, and especially salami publication. That's what many times the problems come occurs, and we
Yes.
may get many mails back if we publish salami publication in the future. If someone who is extensively worked on that, they may write you
Mm.
back by telling that this has been already a part of another
Yes.
publication, so
Yes.
it would have been avoided. So if you feel, obviously you can cut down in one
Yes.
research into 2 3 publication if you really feel there is a significant impact in the scientific
Yeah.
community.
Some
Yeah, then
unique
you can
results that each
unique research.
publication is showing.
Exactly. So we should understand when we can break a paper or when we can break a research into different papers, and whether it is
Absolutely.
worth of breaking. That is very important.
Yes.
Whether it is
Yes.
worth of breaking into the different publication. Then you spoke on step by approach. I really like your approach of having each step in a stepwise manner, and that is very important that you should get approved from all others, because
Absolutely.
may not be in the initial stages when you are working with a fellow student or fellow researcher, it does not much bother them. But when your level is getting hiked, or you are going to the bigger scale and you are bringing the collaborators across the world or from the different domains, obviously they are concerned about their name in the paper. If we could
Of
see that
course.
when you invite a review, when you invite a person into your paper, and if he really feel that he don't have time, he rather reject it, or he may tell you that I don't have much time to review, I may not able to take. It's not that he don't want that paper, he don't want to get blamed because of that paper.
Yes.
It's not that our
Absolutely.
paper is not good or our paper is bad. It really means that he is so much concerned about his name in that paper. So it's
Yes.
very important. So whenever you take someone's name in your paper, you should always uh, get your paper vetted by him or gone through by him. Okay, he may not give much comments to it, but at least he should know what is there in that paper. So do you want to
Yeah.
add anything on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it is important that you add co-authors only after getting their consent. So don't just
Exactly.
add people's name because that is going to improve your credibility. Always ask their permission. Ask, like Rashid was saying, invite them as contributors to the work. Ask them if they would like to be part of your research study. And if they agree to it, only then add their names. Because, like he was mentioning, their name is going to be on the paper, so they are also accountable for what is written in that paper. So it is important that you ensure they are on board with the publication and they approve the publication before you submit the work.
Yeah. So, I'm just coming back to the point which you were telling. Sometime what happens, they'll be happy to review your paper and give you the comment, but still they say that I don't want to be an author
Yeah,
in that paper. So obviously you can go, as you mentioned, you can go and take him as an acknowledgement
knowledge.
section, and plus into the acknowledgement session again, I need to reiterate that you should get consent for getting their name in the
Yes,
acknowledgement
yes,
also. Not only
yes,
their name, suppose you are taking some organizational help, or you are like connecting with some organization to get some papers or get your literature search done, or you are just inviting some librarian to get your
yes, yes,
literature search, but he don't want to be an author in the paper. So but you can't simply put so and so person helped you in
hmm,
achieving that in the acknowledgement. You need to get your consent, and I
yes,
prefer an email consent so that it will be documented in the
yes,
future if journal is
yes,
asking, or sometime if
absolutely,
just random thought I'm saying, in the future he may reject or he deny that I don't have a consent. So
yes.
maybe you will have the
You
document
have a
that
proof.
yeah, of exactly. So it's I always prefer to have an email acknowledgement from the
Absolutely.
co-authors as well as the acknowledged team or person or organization in your paper. That's very important. Then you spoke on what are the different types of papers and the author's guideline. That is very important, because majority of the time, especially our newcomers or those who are starting their publication journey, they just copy paste from someone's draft, or I'm just telling, or they may just copy paste the format of that particular paper which they published, but it may not be suitable for your journal, because each journal, especially when you go to the higher level, there will be minute changes they
Exactly.
intentionally
Exactly.
make in the reference style or
Yes.
bracketing. or sometime it will. So
Yes.
they intentionally change it. I have seen that many times because they don't want you to copy paste someone's format or
Absolutely.
someone's exactly.
Yes.
So they make that change. So you should be very careful. You should be thoroughly reading the instruction or this instruction. That's very important. And nicely you talk on the possibilities of article processing charges and
Hmm.
the as a individual from developing country like India or LMICs, we have a lot of chances to get the fee waiver. So instead of blindly going with the open access fees or just getting it, paying the money, always look for an opportunity for getting article processing charge waived. So that is the best way, so that that money you can use for some other publication. So
Yes.
that's very important. Then you spoke on change in authorship. That's very important because uh, uh, 90 percentage of 99% of the time journals will not allow you to change the authorship or modify
Hmm.
the authorship, but if there is a genuine reason, sometimes
Yes.
journal may allow, so you can change the authorship, but always prefer not to have that because it may question the credibility of the paper
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
in the point of an editor or point of a reviewer. So if there was no author in that particular author was not there, or he was in other role before, and yeah, obviously while you reviewing, okay, there is a chance that okay, your paper came for revision after maybe 1 year, so
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
particular person is already left the group and you have one other person, yeah, you have a proper justification to add a new
Yes.
author or remove a authors, but it should be properly justified. Yeah, so that's the one point which I just want to make. Then you spoke on challenges in publication nicely and publication in clinical pharmacy. That's very important because as we communicate with many healthcare professionals across the different domains of healthcare practice, see, they may ask you or they may value you depends on your contribution to the scientific community. I can't simply say that clinical pharmacy has done that, this, and all. I need to provide the proof what you
Evidence.
have done. I need to provide the evidence what you have done. Obviously, papers speak the. So I used to say
Absolutely.
my fellow students, those who do the research or doing masters or PharmD internship, or I ask them what work you did as a research. Did you
Hmm.
publish it? So I used to give them an example saying that okay, you did a thesis for 1 year or did a research work for
Hmm.
1 year, and if you are not getting it published, according to my point of view, it is incomplete. Okay, you
Yes.
have done the
Yes.
part which is for the your
University
institution,
norms.
yeah, in your institution or yourself, but you haven't contributed anything to the scientific community. So you should, okay, sometimes your paper may not be or the work may not be that to the highest level, but at least you can present that in some good scientific
Conferences.
conferences or symposia, so that it will get published at least as an abstract, and future you can have convert that into a big research in the future if you
Yes.
get a time. So that's very important. So I used to tell my fellow students or the colleagues to get that paper published. That's very important. And another thing, I can't carry my whole research for my life or the thesis book for my life.
Hmm.
Instead, if I can just share one link, I can just share one
Yes.
DOI of paper,
Absolutely.
what I did. I don't have to even explain to a person what I did over a year or
Hmm.
over 3 years of my PhD or 5 years of my PhD. I can just share him some links and I can give an overview what I have done. And if he is really interested
He
or
can
if
go
he's
back and
having
read.
time, let him go on back and or let her go back and read on that. That's very good thing about the publication. You don't have, or you
Yes.
can just share your Google Scholar profile or something, and
Hmm.
that will establish your domain where you are really working. I can't simply say that I am working on so and so area. Okay, when Vrunda is telling that you are working for this many years in antimicrobial stewardship, and if you don't have a good number of papers in that area, so that contradict the what
Yes.
statement we are giving. So it's always important to have, and when you decide a area for your research and publication, we always prefer to narrow down your areas instead of
Hmm.
going touching many areas. And okay,
Hmm.
obviously you need to have a collaboration. I'm not against having the collaboration, but you should try to narrow down your research area which you are really working.
Your
It's very important,
expertise.
expertise. So that makes more sense. So thank you so much for having a very nice publication. So I
Thank
had
you.
some few questions which I already
Sure, sure.
noted down if you have few minutes to share.
Sure, sure, sure.
So yeah, so one point, yeah, we already covered half of that part, but I'll just ask that question back to you again. So
Mm-hmm.
we know that when it is a good journal or it's a reputed journal, we'll have a long wait. And even sometime what happen, even after a long wait, you will get it rejected. Or
Yes.
you, yeah, obviously you have a room for improvement. That's what the best thing about the good journal. That's what strategy which I follow. Whenever I
Yeah.
have a good
Target
paper, first
first. Yeah.
I first top journal so that they will
Yes. I
reject
do
it.
the
I know
same.
that 100% they will reject it,
Yes.
but they will give some good comments where you
Feedback.
can work on your paper further and you can get it improved and get
Yes.
into the next level journal. So that's very important. So do you have any other tips to manage these kind of rejections or kind of depression after rejection, basically, for a new people who are
Yeah.
getting into this? We know that it's a part of the game, so we already habituated to that, but those who are coming to this field newly, they'll get depressed obviously after getting that rejected for a long
Yeah.
time. So yeah, do you have any other tips to add that?
I always remember something that my mentor, Dr. Smita Charani, said. I think it was somewhere early in my career when I submitted a paper and it was just getting rejected everywhere. And I was really sad. I was like, this is not worthy of publication. And this is what she said. She said, every article has its home and it will find its home. So you just need to be patient there. And like Rashid said, whenever you get a rejection, it is important that you work again on the manuscript. It's easy for you to feel depressed and rejected and say, okay, your article is not worthy enough. I'm not going to publish it anywhere. Rather than that, take a break, go back to the publication and just read it again. Some journals, even if they are rejecting the paper, they will provide good, constructive, peer reviewed feedback. So I recently, not recently, last year, I submitted one paper in a very good journal, quite a very high impact factor journal. And after their first round of peer review, they rejected the paper. But three reviewers provided extremely beneficial reviewer comments. So that was really helpful for me because the second journal that I submitted, just got accepted in that journal because I worked on those reviewer comments. I improved my manuscript and then I resubmitted. So before you resubmit your journal to another, your publication to another journal, it is important that you revisit the manuscript, see if you can make some edits, even if the journal is not providing any comments to you. Just go back, maybe ask a colleague of yours to provide some unbiased review. So someone who has not contributed to the study, ask him or her to just review your papers to see if that is making sense to them. Another thing that my mentor says is the language that we use should be very easily understandable, because the person who the reviewer or the once the paper gets published, whoever is reading that paper has not done your research, so they don't know what you have done. So as a researcher who has done the research, everything is there in your head, so we might have a tendency to skip out certain information. And for someone who's completely unaware about your research, when they're reading this paper, they might find it difficult to join the dots. So they might feel that things are missing here, it's not complete information, so they don't get the complete sense of it, they might misinterpret the data. So it is very important, how much ever you are involved in the study, whatever it is, make sure that you are putting in all those information in the paper. Don't overlook on any information. Don't think that, I don't need to explicitly say this, it is quite understandable. Don't take that chance. Put everything on paper. That is what I try to do. I don't take a chance there, because the person who's reading it does not know what you have done. So you have to make it very explicit, and make the person understand what you have done, and ensure that your paper has a good flow. So you did this, you got this is how you're interpreting it. So that is very important when you are submitting it for publication. And always first target a journal that has very good impact factor, a very reputed journal, where you're like 100% sure it is going to get rejected, but always try with that. Then climb down the ladder, then go to the next journal, which is maybe not that impactful journal, but it is good reputed journal. Then come down. So in that way, just go down the ladder, and you will definitely find your home.
Yeah, thank you, Arunda. That was an amazing response to that, because even I had the same experience when I did my initial publication days in 2018 October. I really remember on a week I got 5 rejections back to back on a week. So then when I told to my mentor, I don't want to take his name during that time. I had a good mentor. Still, he's one of my very good mentor. Whenever I have any help needed, I get back to him and he'll get back to me. So he told me that you are getting rejection because you are submitting more. When you are
Mm.
getting 5 rejection because you are submitting 10 publication. So if you don't want rejection, don't publish. Don't go down submit your paper. But it's a part of the game. So I took it in a positive way. We worked on that. Next January, I got 5 paper in a month. So that is
Mm.
the best thing. So as I totally agree with you. So it's a part of the game. You have to go with it and get it vetted. And another point which I just want to read, confirm. I mean, I just want to emphasize that. See, that's what I used to tell my nowadays. Even we didn't know that in the initial days. So we used to say those who are coming newly to the field, we used to say that the paper is you're speaking to someone, you are speaking to someone,
Mm.
and that paper
Mm.
might be read by someone who don't know anything about this field. So he
Yes,
also should be able to understand what you are telling in that paper. It's not that I
absolutely.
can understand my paper. No, it has
Mm.
to be understood by someone else when they're reading that. So I'm continuing that particular portion ahead. I will take one more question from you, not more than that. So I'm just continuing the what happened in our setting, or we learned in that way that when you do a paper, it's yours. You don't have to
Mm.
take someone into the team. But that concept is wrong. When
Yes.
we go further, we will get to know that it's a wrong concept that we take everything to ourselves. You have to have opportunity for everyone getting collaborated. So in that aspect, do you want to tell anything about the importance of collaboration in publication and research? Because that is a one of the uh, most important part which we from the background which we are coming in our setting still lacking the collaboration. We are still to ourselves, my mentor, my supervisor, and me, not more than that. But that concept is wrong. We learned that over the time. So do you want to tell something on that importance of collaboration? Maybe we'll have to bring someone who from outside who's totally uh, didn't involve anything till date, but he can give
Mm.
good comments. You feel you can give more important things to that. So do you want to just add anything on collaboration? Then we will. I know that it's almost 1 hour
That's
and
okay.
6 minutes, but if you can add more points to
Yes.
that, then I know that you have lots of collaboration across the India as well as outside. Even you have many I used to go through your papers when I need an international scenario, and especially you are working in such kind of a broad concept, so you obviously you need multiple collaborators. So how it improved your way of publication, how it really helped you having collaborations in your paper? So can you just have some words on that?
Sure. I think that's a very important aspect, especially because unfortunately, in our pharmacy curriculum, we are not taught about the importance of networking and collaboration. So we are not taught about how you should perform when you go for conferences, what is expected when you go for conferences. So it is very late, like after I started working and I got into these research projects, that I understood that these conferences is a hub. Every conference is like a hub of experts and people in that particular field from all over the world. So that is your very important opportunity to go and speak to everyone, share your work, understand what they are doing, think about collaboration. So what you can, like, what benefit you get out of collaboration is, one, you can expand your knowledge base, you can understand what others are doing, see if you can replicate some of those things in your setting, see if you can work together to achieve a bigger benefit. So that definitely helps. And adding more people, again, there might be some issues also. I'm not saying every collaboration is going to be like 100% fruitful and going to benefit you 100%. No, like everyone is human, so egos can happen, issues can occur. But I have always felt that, again, I'm just getting used to this whole concept of networking collaboration. I'm also learning, but it is important that you are ready to share your work and to learn from others. That is the most important thing that I value in collaboration. So uh, for me, in my personal research career, because of these collaborations, I have learned a lot. So I was a person who had no idea about qualitative research when I was working in stewardship, because I was never taught about that research methodology. It was only when I met experts from other countries that I understood, okay, there is this whole arena called qualitative research. I got trained in it. I was able to work in a lot of papers with other collaborators, other experts in this field from across the globe. Then I went on to do other things with them. I expanded the network to other researchers. So it basically enables you to open doors to a lot of unexplored arenas where you can do a lot of contribution to. So always look out for collaboration. There is this one term that I first heard when I did a course, which is called lone wolf. So lone wolf is when you are just doing all the research, everything as one person. You are not ready to collaborate. You are not ready to delegate your work. That is someone who's called a lone wolf. So try not to be a lone wolf, when, especially in a research field, because research flourishes when you collaborate and network and you bring in more people. But keep in mind that issues can occur. That is not that it is not going to occur, but you should have a positive attitude towards collaboration. That's what I feel.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry, we have one question in YouTube comment
Sure.
from one of our audience. So he's
Mhm.
asking that what other matrices should be taken into consideration while selecting any journal for publication in a specific area of research other than anything which you already mentioned? Or is there any
Mm.
easy way to choose your journal for the publication in that particular area?
I would say these are some of the major ways in which we choose journals. I am not aware about there would be other matrices, but these are some of the commonly used matrices. Uh, but with regards to publications, I think the reach of publication is a very good metrics rather than looking at impact factor of the journal or site score. I would definitely feel that how much your publication is able to reach a wider audience. So it could include shares on social media pages. So that's a very good metrics now, according to me. How many people are sharing your work, how many people are commenting on your work, how many people are reacting to your work. Citations, definitely, because the more citation you get, the more reach the paper is having. So these are some of the matrices that I look for. And Rashid, do you want to add anything to
Yeah,
that?
maybe I can give two, three more points to that. The one thing is that you need to see the scope of your research,
Hmm.
not only the scope of the journal. You need to see, suppose you are working something on antimicrobial stewardship, which or you are developing something on antibiogram or anything, which is very specific to your setting, which is somewhere in South India, then you don't have much scope internationally. So you
Hmm.
should choose some journals or you should choose some platform where it goes into the national level. You can go for any Indian Journal of Microbiology or Indian Journal of
Hmm.
Medical
Hmm.
Microbiology, something. So you should understand the scope of your research work. Then you should choose a journal. That is the one point which we need to be very careful while we choosing. Or else you have a
Identifying your
paper.
target
Yeah, identifying
audience.
the target audience is very important, as you mentioned. Then plus another thing, the easy way which I sometime adopt, not always, to choose a journal. You are already written a paper and you have a good amount of citations in your paper. So that will give you a hint which are all the
Hmm.
journals which you are which
That's
is
true.
publishing your paper, kind of works. So
Yeah,
that
that's
will
a
give
good
you a
point.
hint, a list of good database of the journals which you
Hmm.
can target, and then you can note down which are all the or sometimes what will happen, you can see that out of 15 citation which you did in your paper, maybe 5 to 6 belongs to a single journal because that
Hmm.
is a journal which work a lot in that particular area.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
can go through their scope of the journal, and if it is matching with your particular paper, then that also you
Hmm.
can consider while you choose a journal. So then
Yeah.
otherwise, obviously, you have a lot of journal finders, like you
Hmm.
have journal author name identified Jain
Yes.
or Wileys or whichever the platform which you want, you can
Databases.
databases, you can just go and put your title and abstract to that particular uh, domain,
Search
so
bar.
that they
Yeah.
will provide you the list of journals which is best suit for your publication or manuscript. So these are the
Yeah.
few
That's a
ways
good
which I
point.
adopt. And obviously, we will, as we go further, we'll have to talk a lot on this. Maybe
Yeah,
in the some future sessions we can have with the FCPI or any other
absolutely.
platform. So we are always welcome to have your comments in the box, or you can reach out to us by fcpaofficial@gmail.com. So any of our expert and the particular one who is taking that session, or whoever he or she redirect, can take up your question and get back to you at the earliest possible. So also you can share us your feedbacks through the multiple domains like LinkedIn, we have YouTube, we have
Instagram.
Twitter, Instagram, or even email. So you can always get back to us regarding the feedback on any further improvements of our programs or any other topic if you would like to hear from our side. So
Yes.
that will help us to work further and get into things more. So I don't take much time. It's already 1 hour and 15 minutes right now. So thank you so much, Vrunda, for your such a wonderful session. And I think we have almost covered many things, and still
Yes.
we have a lot, obviously. So maybe we will meet in the future sessions, and have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you